Hey YouTubers, Lux here. Let's read some more from the Lost Book of Enki by Zechariah Sitchin. This reading is offered in the spirit of fair use and is for educational purposes, as well as to foster enlightened discussion on the Enuma Elish, as well as the works of Zechariah Sitchin. Please visit Sitchin.com for an incredible wealth of information and knowledge. This book is also available for your iPhone, and you can find it on Amazon.com as well. When we last left our story, many things had taken place. One of the more important happenings was the dispensation of titles and responsibilities to Enki and Enlil by Anu. Enki, not being of full royal blood, watched as his half-brother was put in command of the gold operation. Let it be stated now for the record that Lord Ea, the Lord of the Waters, was Enki's initial title. This is how Earth came to be named, essentially Ea, E-A-R-T-H, Earth. When Ea was made Enki, Anu named him Lord of the Earth. Earth was known as Ki, and En means Lord. Enki does not mean serpent god from hell, and it does not literally translate into devil, snake, deceiver guy, or anything like that. There are many people on YouTube and all over the internet who insist that we have this translation or something similar. But this is not what Enki means. Maybe it means it to you, but that's not what it means in the literal translation. Remember, Enki is the good guy, and Enlil is the evil one. Anyway, this lack of equity in designating authority will come into play later in our tale, and as many of you know, it is said that there are two warring factions of the Annunaki, even as we speak. Is it possible that Enki and Enlil with their clans are still duking it out in the year 2012 AD? Well, there's no hiding whose side I'm on. One last quickie note before I begin. There is some heavy content in this reading. Very violent, sexual, and explicit type of stuff that may not be appropriate for the kinderfolk. So if you have the young ones about, please put the headphones or earbuds on now. Now this is the account of Enki and Enlil and Ninmah, their loves and espousals, and by their sons the rivalries. Offspring of Anu, the three leaders were, by different mothers were they born. Enki was the firstborn son. A concubine of Anu was his mother. Enlil by Antu, the spouse of Anu, was born. The legal heir he thus became. Ninmah by another concubine was mothered. A half-sister of the two brothers she was. The firstborn daughter of Anu she was. By her name title Ninmah this was indicated. Greatly beautiful she was, full of wisdom, one quick to learn. Ea, as Enki then was named by Anu to espouse Ninmah, was chosen. Thereby their offspring son, the legal successor thereafter to become. Ninmah of Enlil, a dashing commander, was enamored. By him she was seduced. Into her womb his seed he poured. That's cutting to the chase. A son from Enlil's seed she bore, Ninurta, the two have named him. By the deed was Anu angered. As punishment, he, Ninmah, ever to be a spouse forbade. So Anu is angry because Ninmah did not honor his desires to be with Enki. Ea, his bride-to-be, by Anu's decree abandoned. A princess named Damkina he instead espoused. So Ninmah screwed around on Enki, and Anu told her she couldn't get married to anybody. So he gives to Ea, otherwise known as Enki, Damkina. A son, an heir to them, was born. Marduk, they named him. Yes, Marduk. One in a pure place born, it meant. Let's read that again. Marduk means one in a pure place born. It does not mean seven-headed devil god, okay? Just for the record. As for Enlil, a son not by a spousal he had. A spouse by his side to be he did not have. It was on earth, not on Nibiru, that Enlil became espoused. The account of that is one of rape and exile and love that brought forgiveness, and of more sons that were only half-brothers. On earth it was summer. To his abode in the cedar forest Enlil retreated. In the cedar forest was Enlil walking in the cool of the day. In a cool mountain stream, some of Ninma's young ones, to the landing place assigned, were bathing. Ninma's young ones were the group of female, helpers, scientists, doctors, nurses that came with her from Nibiru. And apparently they were all hot young babes. So let's continue here. By the beauty and grace of one, Sud was her name, Enlil was enchanted. To his cedar wood abode Enlil her invited. Come, partake with me in the elixir of Nibiru's fruit that grew here. So to her he said. Sud into Enlil's abode entered. The elixir in a cup to her Enlil presented. Sud drank. Enlil drank too. To her, Enlil of intercourse was speaking. Unwilling was the lass. My vagina is too little. It knows not copulation, to Enlil she was saying. To her, Enlil of kissing was speaking. Unwilling was the lass. My lips are too small. They know not kissing, to Enlil she was saying. Enlil laughed and embraced her. He laughed and he kissed her. His semen into her womb he poured. To Ninma, Sud's commander, the immoral deed was reported. Enlil, immoral one, for your deed judgment you shall face. So did Ninma to Enlil in anger say. Sounds like Ninma was maybe a little jealous there. In the presence of 50 Annunaki, 7 who judge were assembled. 7 who judge on Enlil a punishment decreed. Let Enlil from all cities be banished. To a land of no return, let him exiled be. In a sky chamber, they made Enlil leave the landing place. Abgal was its pilot. To a land of no return, Enlil was taken, never to return. You want to bet he returns? I think so. In the sky chamber, the 2 of them journeyed. To another land was their direction. There, amidst forbidding mountains, at a place of desolation, Abgal the sky chamber landed. This your place of exile shall be, Abgal to Enlil was saying. Not perchance have I it chosen, to Enlil he was saying. A secret of Enki in it is here hidden. In the nearby cave, Enki 7 weapons of terror has hidden. Uh-oh. From Allalu's celestial chariot he had them removed. Take the weapons into your possession. With the weapons, your freedom attain. You may remember that Enki had the nuclear terror weapons, or whatever they were, removed from Allalu's chariot in, I believe it was the 2nd or 3rd tablet. And apparently now they've fallen into Enlil's hands. So was Abgal to his commander saying, a secret of Enki to Enlil he did reveal. Then from the secret place Abgal departed. Enlil alone was there left. In the Eden, Sud, to Ninma, her commander, words was speaking. By Enlil's seed am I pregnant. A child of Enlil in my womb has been conceived. Ninma, Sud's words to Enki conveyed. The Lord of earth he was. On earth he was now supreme. They summoned Sud before the 7 who judge. Will you take Enlil as your spouse, they asked her. Words of consent she uttered. The words by Abgal to Enlil in his exile were conveyed. So Enlil is married without his knowledge there. To espouse Sud, Enlil from his exile was returned. By that did Enki and Ninma to him a pardon give. Enlil's official spouse, Sud, was declared. On her the name title Ninlil, Lady of the Command, was bestowed. Thereafter to Ninlil and Enlil a son was born, Ninar, the Bright One, Ninlil him named. He was the first of the Anunnaki on earth to be conceived, one of Nibiru's royal seed on an alien planet to be born. It was after that Enki to Ninmah was speaking. Come be with me in the Abzu. In the midst of the Abzu, in a place of pure waters, an abode I have established. With a bright metal, silver is its name, it is embellished. With a deep blue stone, lapis lazuli, it is adorned. Come, Ninmah, be with me, your adoration of Enlil abandon. To the Abzu, to the abode of Enki, Ninmah then journeyed. Enki there to her words of loving spoke, of how for each other intended, sweet words to her he whispered. You are still my beloved, to her he said, caressing. He embraced her, he kissed her. She caused his phallus to water. My. Enki his semen into the womb of Ninmah poured. Give me a son, he cried out. Hey now. She took the semen into her womb. The semen of Enki her impregnated. One day of Nibiru was a month of earth for her. 2 days, 3 days, 4 days of Nibiru, like months of earth they were. 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 days of months were completed. The 9th count of motherhood was completed. Ninmah was in travail. To a child she gave birth. The newborn was a female. On the banks of the river, in the Abzu, a daughter to Enki and Ninmah was born. Enki by a daughter was disappointed. Kiss the young one, to him, Ninmah said. Kiss the young one. Enki to his vizier Izamud said, a son I desired. A son by my half-sister I must have. Again he kissed Ninmah. By her loins he grabbed her. His semen into her womb he poured. He really didn't waste any time now, did he? Again she was with child. Again a daughter to Enki she bore. A son by you I must have, Enki to her cried out. Ninmah he kissed again. Thereupon Ninmah against Enki a curse uttered. Whatever food he ate was poison in his innards. His jaw hurt, his tooth hurt, his ribs were hurting. Izamud the Anunnaki summoned to Ninmah. For relief they were pleading. So Ninmah put the whammy there on Enki for being a horn dog. And now he's sending his envoy to go and get medical assistance. To distance himself from Ninmah's vulva, Enki by raised arms swore. One by one she his ailments removed. From her curse Enki was freed. Powers that woman has. To the Eden Ninmah returned, never to be espoused. Anu's command was fulfilled. To earth Enki his spouse Damkina with their son Marduk summoned. Ninki, Lady of Earth, the title she was granted. By her and by concubines Enki 5 more sons had. These were their names: Nergal and Gibil, Ninagal, and Ningizida, and Demuzi, the youngest. To earth Enlil and Ninmah, their son Ninurta, summoned. By his spouse Ninlil did Enlil 1 more son have. To Ninar, a full brother, Ishkor was his name. 3 sons in all did Enlil have. None by concubines were they born. 2 clans were thus on earth established. Their rivalries to wars did lead. Now this is the account of the mutiny of the Agigi. Those were the Anunnaki who were living on Mars. and how Anzu to death was put for stealing the tablets of destinies punished. From the Abzu, gold from earth's veins to the landing place was carried. Thence Agigi in rocket ships to the way station on Lamu transported. Lamu is Mars. From the planet Lamu, Mars, in celestial chariots was the precious metal to Nibiru brought. On Nibiru was the gold to the finest dust fashioned. To protect the atmosphere it was employed. Slowly was the breach in the heavens healing. Slowly was Nibiru saved. In the Eden, the 5 cities were perfected. Enki and Eridu, a sparkling abode made. Upon soil skyward raised he built it up. Like a mountain he raised it above the ground. In a good place he built it. Damkina his spouse therein dwelt. To his son Marduk, Enki was their wisdom teaching. In Nibiru Ki, Enlil, the bond, heaven, earth established, a sight it was to see. As its center, a heavenward tall pillar, the sky itself was reaching. On a platform that cannot be overturned, it was placed. Therewith the words of Enlil all settlements encompassed. On Lamu and in Nibiru they were heard. From there beams were raised, the heart of all the lands they could search. Its eyes could scan all the lands, its net unwanted approach impossible made. In its lofty house, a crown-like chamber was the center. To distant heavens it peered. Toward the horizon was its gaze, the heavenly zenith it perfected. In its dark hollowed chamber, by 12 emblems was the family of the sun marked. On MEs were the secret formulas of sun and moon, Nibiru and earth, and 8 celestial gods recorded. The tablets of destinies in the chamber their hues emitted. With them Enlil all comings and goings oversaw. On earth the Annunaki toiled, of work and sustenance they were complaining. By earth's quick cycles they were disturbed. Of the elixir they only had small rations. In the Eden the Annunaki toiled. In the Abzu the work was more backbreaking. By teams were Anunnaki sent back to Nibiru. By teams new ones were arriving. Remember that time passes much more quickly on Earth for these folks, so they're basically aging and falling apart. So they sort of, they need help is what's happening here. The Agigi on Lamu dwelling were the loudest in complaining. So Mars sucked worse than here for them. When the Lamu to earth they descend, a rest place on earth they were demanding. With Anu did Enlil and Enki words exchange. The king they consulted. Let the leader come to earth with Anzu and have discussions. So did Anu to them say. Anzu to earth from the heavens descended. The words of complaints to Enlil and Enki he delivered. Let Anzu of the workings gain understanding, Enki to Enlil was saying. In other words, let them come down here and see what we're going through. I will the Abzu to him show. You the bond, heaven earth, to him reveal. To the words of Enki, Enlil consented. Enki to Anzu the Abzu did show. So he's sort of showing him the mines here. The toil in the mines to him he presented. Enlil Anzu to Nibiru Ki invited. To the hallowed dark chamber he let him enter. In the innermost sanctuary, the tablets of destinies to Anzu he explained. When the Anunnaki, what the Anunnaki in the 5 cities were doing to Anzu was shown. To the Agigi, who were at the landing place, were arriving, relief he promised. To discuss the complaints of the Agigi, he to Nibiru Ki then returned. A prince among the princes was Anzu. Of royal seed his ancestry he counted. Evil thoughts filled his heart when to the bond heaven earth he returned. to take away the tablets of destinies he was scheming, of the decrees of heaven and earth to take control in his heart he was planning. The removal of the Enlilship in his heart he conceived. To rule Agigi and Annunaki was his aim. Unsuspecting Enlil at the entrance to the sanctuary Anzu let be stationed. Unsuspecting Enlil left the sanctuary. For a cooling swim he went away. With evil purpose Anzu the tablets of destiny seized. In a sky chamber he flew away. To the mountain of the sky chambers he swiftly went. There, in the landing place, rebellious Igigi for him were waiting. To declare Anzu king of earth and Lamu they were preparing. In the sanctuary of Nibiruki the brilliance petered out, the humming quieted down. Silence in the place prevailed. Suspended were the sacred formulas. In Nibiruki, Enlil was speechless. By the treachery, he was overwhelmed. So, Anzu is basically trying to take control of everything, including Enlil's beloved bond heaven-earth, which has a sort of a multifunctional thing happening. It's a stargate. It's some sort of a device that allows you to see everywhere. It's quite spectacular. And these tablets of destiny, these are things that confer power, big power. You might remember that was how Kingu was bound down to the earth when the tablets of destinies were taken by Nibiru. So this is some sort of powerful thing that he's now seized. And the Igigi they're just disgusted. They're going to rally behind anybody who's got their back. So Anzu he's not making any friends of the guys in command, but the people who are doing the hard work. It's sort of a workers' movement, basically. Sort of like a union is forming here, an Igigi type union. To Enki angry words he spoke, of the ancestry of Anzu him questioned. In Nibiruki, the leaders gathered. The Annunaki who decree fates with Anu were consulting. Anzu must be seized. The tablets to the sanctuary must be returned. Thus did Anu decree. Who shall the rebel face? Who shall the tablets retrieve? The leaders asked each other. With the tablets of destinies in his possession, invincible is Anzu, to each other they were saying. Ninurta, by his mother encouraged, from the assembled stepped forward. Enlil's warrior I shall be, Anzu I shall vanquish, thus was Ninurta saying. To the mountainside Ninurta set his course. To vanquish the fugitive Anzu he undertook. Anzu from his hideout Ninurta was mocking. The tablets are my protection, invincible I am. Lightning darts Ninurta at Anzu directed. The arrows could not approach Anzu, backwards they turned. The battle was stilled. Ninurta's weapons Anzu did not vanquish. Enki then to Ninurta counsel gave. With your whirlwind stir up a storm. Let the dust cover Anzu's face. Let it the wings of his sky bird ruffle. For his son Enlil, a mighty weapon fashioned. A Tilu missile it was. To your stormer weapon attach it. When wing to wing near at Anzu, shoot it. So we've got a sky battle going on. Thus did Enlil his son Ninurta instruct. When wing to wing near each other, let the missile fly as a lightning. Again Ninurta in his whirlwind soared. Anzu against him in his sky bird rose to challenge. Wing to wing. Anzu in anger shouted, this battle will be your destruction. Ninurta the advice of Enki followed. With his whirlwind a dust storm he created. The dust Anzu's face covered. The pinions of his sky bird were exposed. Into their midst Ninurta the missile let loose. A fiery brilliance Anzu's pinions engulfed. Like butterflies his wings began to flutter. To the ground Anzu came falling. The earth shook, the skies became darkened. The fallen Anzu Ninurta made captive. From him the tablets he retrieved. From the mountaintop, the Igigi were watching. When to the landing place Ninurta came, they trembled and kissed his feet. Brown nosers, those Igigi. Ninurta, the captive Abgal and Annunaki, set free. To Anu and Enlil his victory he announced. To Nibiruki he then returned. In its innermost chamber the tablets were reinstalled. Once again the brilliance therein returned. The hum of the MEs, that's capital letter M, capital letter E. The MEs in the tablets was restored. Before the seven who judge, Anzu for a judgment was taken. Enlil and Ninlil his spouse, Enki and his spouse Ninki, the once beforehand known as Damkina, and the sons Ninar and Marduk were there. Ninmah was also in judging. Ninurta of the evil deeds spoke. There was no justification. Let death be the penalty, he said. The Igigi by right were complaining. A rest place on earth they do need, Marduk in counter argued. By his evil deed, all the Anunnaki and Igigi Anzu did endanger, Enlil said. Enki and Ninmah with Enlil agreed. The evil must be extinguished, they said. To death by execution, the seven judged Anzu. With a killing ray, Anzu's life breath was extinguished. Let his body to the vultures be left, Ninurta said. Let him on Lamu be buried. In a cave next to Alalu be laid to rest, Enki was saying. From the same ancestral seed the two of them were. Let Marduk the body to Lamu carry. Let Marduk there as commander stay. So was Enki to the judges suggesting. Let it be so, Enlil said. This concludes this section of my reading of the Lost Book of Enki. By now, you may be getting a better idea of who these Anunnaki are, as people, as personalities, the manner in which they do business, create order and social structure, and of course, the ways in which they handle their personal affairs. The more you listen, the more you may find yourself identifying with these people. And really, you should see them as people. People from very far away, and people without whom we might not even be here. It is something to consider. For if there is even a tiny bit of truth to these tales, the Anunnaki could be our creators, our big brothers and big sisters from afar, our celestial parents. There is a hesitancy to view texts written a very long time ago as containing actual tales of everyday life of those who came before us. Why this unwillingness persists, I cannot say for certain, but think about it. Is everything written a long time ago just a myth? I rather doubt this. In addition, there's a tendency to be overly selective about which text we shall accept as truth, and those which are dismissed as the legend or fantasy of ancient and perhaps bored minds. The stories we hear in texts such as this, the Enuma Elish, and many others which are millennia in their vintage, are too often classified by scientists as the tales ascribed to celestial bodies and sights in the heavens, and this is becoming a more widely accepted view. Yes, they must be talking about celestial events, people cry. This is just another way of avoiding what is staring us all right in the face. Is it not more likely that the ancients used the celestial events and bodies to recount the tales of things which actually happened? I think so. I think it is entirely more likely that the heavens were used as a means of remembering the history of the early peoples of the earth. Those who from the heavens came, and us, their little pals. Seriously, the heavens are always there, and I believe that these extreme similarities in legend and myth between cultures down through the years arose and were maintained because the heavens were used as a history map. And there was a common history of all peoples and cultures. Think about that. What do you think? Stay tuned for section 5 and keep looking up.